This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio.
Let's go. Come on, let's go. Say ho, ho. Say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
Yep. Barely made it to work today. Caught behind an accident. Cops everywhere. Here's the thing. Not exactly street legal at the moment. I am, technically speaking, but it's just I have a license situation that I don't think a cop would look favorably upon should I get pulled over for doing something I shouldn't be doing. Like, caught behind some traffic, wanted to zip around it, not sure what the deal was, but like driving a car that doesn't really have a license plate on the moment without what is technically a valid driver's license. Yet I'm still street legal. How so? Well, it's a weird convergence of circumstances, but it happened and it's a thing. How do I manage to be out on the road with a car without a license plate on it, without a valid driver's license, yet still manage to consider myself street legal? No, it's not wishful thinking. It's a thing.
If you like what you're hearing, tweet the show at ADSXE. AD on iHeartRadio.
I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Yeah, I do what I want, when I want, how I want. This is my United States of whatever. Picture me giving a damn, I say never. Yeah, I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running.
So, barely made it to work today. Caught behind an accident type of situation where there were cops literally everywhere. And while technically speaking I am street legal, I'm not in a situation where any cop would be like, hey, terrific, go right on your way. I have like an expired license. And the people that send you your new license had like a wrong address for me or something like that. So they're sending me one. But in the meantime, I get a paper license. So what I have is an expired license, a license that expired a little while ago, an accompanying paper license, which happens to be out of state, and I'm driving this car from a dealership that has no identifiable markings on it. There's no license plate, nothing like that. I'm supposing there's a VIN number somewhere on it, but it has like this little sort of like temporary papers which have been taped to the inside of the windscreen. So between the fact that I got no license plate, not a valid license, a piece of paper from out of state that says technically I'm legal to drive, and no real official documentation linking the car I'm in, to me, it's a little sketchy. So, yeah, caught behind an accident. Could have driven evasively to get here, but that could have landed me in the pokey. So hence here I am today. How the hell might you be? Don't you wish you could just get a pass? Like, there's a reason why I'm extraordinarily observant of the laws of the road. I never really speed. Maybe when I'm passing someone. And I used to drive, my whole thing was like 15 to 20 miles over the speed limit. Drop it to 10 when you see a cop. I used to blaze by cops doing 10 miles over the speed limit, thinking that was okay. And as it turns out, most times it is okay, but occasionally it's not okay. And I've radically changed my attitude toward driving for two reasons. One, hey, aren't you that guy from the radioed my way out of tickets on numerous occasions? Not on purpose, but whenever you get pulled over, they always ask you the same questions. They're like, hey, license and registration, please. Where are you heading? Or where are you coming from? And invariably, because, you work 1 million hours a day in radio, it's always, oh, I'm coming from work, or I'm going to work. And then the cop always, even though I don't think technically it's any of the cop's business, I know this can help me in some cases, so I have no problem playing along. But the cop's like, oh yeah, and where's work? And I'm like, oh, the radio station over there. They're like, what do you do at the radio station? I'm on the, are you AD? They're like, yeah, I am. Man, I listen to you all the time. Hey, look, just cool it, okay? Be careful. And I was like, whew. And that's happened to me probably about 10 separate occasions. And now I'm incredibly observant of the laws of the road for two reasons. One, I don't think I can go to that well too many times. I can't count on that happening. And really, I want to make this crystal clear. I've never been pulled over and been like, oh yeah, it says Adrian on my driver's license, but really you might know me better as AD. Let me out of that ticket. Never once expected it, never once asked for special treatment, but it always sort of wound up happening that way. And the world's an unfair place. And in this particular instance, it's been unfair in my advantage in that way, and so I'm just going with it, whatever. But the other reason why I drive the speed limit at all times now is because there's a show down the hall, a talk radio guy, much sort of bigger than me in the talk radio world. I trounce him when it comes to my numbers of music, but much bigger than me in the world of talk radio. This dude, Michael Berry, who actually has a lot of interesting stuff to say about a lot of interesting things. And he has a tradition on his shows. He calls it Papa Top Friday, where he says, hey, man, there's no reason why you can't have one beer and drive home. There's no reason why you can't have a beer while you're driving home. I'm like, oh, and then you can't encourage drinking and driving on the radio. And it was like, it's one beer. We're a libertarian radio show. We know that we can have one beer, within the legal limit, and we deserve that. My listeners have worked hard all day long at the plant. They're sweaty. They're beat down. They've had a long week. They're going back home to their wife and their children and the things that matter the most. And there's no reason they can't pop a top on an ice cold beer and enjoy it on the ride home, because they're freedom loving Americans that work hard and deserve it. And I was like, you can't do this. It's it's morally objectionable. And so I took to walking into their studio every single Friday when they were having Papa Top Day, and I was like, hey, how's Vehicular Homicide Friday going? How much blood do you have on your hands? Any yet? Probably none that you know about, but I guarantee there is some, you idiots. So I'm a little judgy McJudgerson. And these guys are my friends. The people that run the show are my friends. I do a show with them on the weekend that you can hear on KPRC in Houston. But I realized to occupy the moral high ground when chastising them for Papa Top Friday, I had to mind my P's and freaking Q's with regard to things like speeding and texting and driving. So, because among radio hosts, nothing is more important than getting one over on each other and occupying the moral high ground, I now drive the speed limit so I can go in and make fun of what I call Vehicular Homicide Friday on the Michael Berry Show down the hall. Does that make sense? Probably not very much, but you see where I'm coming from. Oh, Joe Biden said something he ought not to have said. And a married couple had a threesome with a homeless guy, which ended in a brawl when the two men argued over hamburgers. All of the above is true, and all of the above are things that we're going to get to after we examine what is going on in the world today with super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser. You can join in the conversation by tweeting him at FunkFM. You can tweet me at ADSXE. Funkhouser, A, how are you? B, what's going on in the world? Have you ever, you've been a radio personality of some notoriety in various markets. Have you ever been like, yeah, I rock, therefore you should let me out of a ticket?
No, but I have called in some officer friends when, the need arises. Like I was watching my buddy's house while he was away, and his kid decided to his 13-year-old kid decided to throw a party. And, I was up on the balcony for an hour or so. I came down, and there was 25 kids that wouldn't listen to me. So I called up my police department friend. I said, hey, can you come over here and scare some teenagers? He goes, I'm on my way.
Was there underage drinking at this party?
Probably. I mean, they could do a lot in an hour, apparently. And I came down there, and the house was this was when I was 23 or something, so I didn't know what the heck I was doing anyway. But yeah, the party and good times were had by all except for me.
Right, yeah. Well, I can't think of anything worse than a bunch of out-of-control 13-year-olds. That's I would probably call the cops on that, too, because there's just too many hormones going on for you to be able to, you kids, quiet down. And you're like, they're not going to care. They're not going to respond. You have no lasting ramifications or repercussions. During some incredibly lean times, I used to DJ, and I would DJ everything. This is before I got on the radio, but I DJ'd everything. I like from like swanky clubs in New York City down to the cheesiest bar mitzvahs and weddings that Long Island has to offer. I've spun records at them. And you know what's interesting? By the way, if you ever find yourself in the DJing business, one thing that I've noticed, it didn't matter if it was a cheesy wedding, it didn't matter if it was an awful bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, it didn't matter if it was the swankiest club in New York City where people and DJs are held to the highest of musical standards. Hypnotized by Biggie Smalls unites all people musically. Absolutely 100% works in any situation. People will get down with their bad selves when you put that on. If your party's going south, if your party's going south, that's how you make it come back. Listeners of the Michael Berry Show are tweeting along. He said, dude, don't screw with my Papa Top Friday. Hey, look, you're a big boy. You make your own decisions when you listen to the Michael Berry Show about what you're going to do. Are you going to drink and drive? Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that, well, that doesn't exactly fall within the boundaries of the law. Maybe you personally can drink a beer and drive home. And, you know, that's your call, and you're a big boy and you make your own decisions, and I can't make any decisions for you. But, you know, like I said, I would imagine not everybody that Michael Berry is speaking to is compos mentis. Not everybody Michael Berry is speaking to is compos mentis, as the guy that just tweeted me, Mr. Reaper Garcia. And there's people, I guarantee you, there's people that haven't developed opposable thumbs yet that are still basically wandering around in the genetic soup that are revving up their car on their way back to their mud hut to hang out with their husband or sister wives and wag their vestigial tails in happiness because the weekend is finally here. That goes, Michael Berry said it's okay for me to drink and drive, so I'm going to drink and drive. And then they slide into a family of 6. Although, have you noticed, here's the interesting thing, and I'm speaking only to the people now that also catch the Michael Berry Show. He's got a beer sponsor now. He reps this fantastic craft brewery out of Texas called St. Arnold. Just high-quality work they do. And also, spirit of entrepreneurialism alive and well with St. Arnold. Fantastic company. Perfect marriage of sponsor and radio show with the Michael Berry Show. But ever since the beer sponsor came on board the Michael Berry Show, have you noticed that he calls for people to drink responsibly on a Papa Top Friday and doesn't say, hey, reach down between your legs, pop that top, don't mind the popo, and chug a beer on the way home? He never makes reference to specifically driving whilst drinking now that the almighty dollar has come into the equation. Which, you know, hey, you do deserve a beer after a long week if that's what you want. And you also deserve to live, to see the weekend. So I think throwing some money on the situation has made it a lot more palatable, not only for his listeners, but also for members of law enforcement. Yep, true story. Where were we, Funkhouser? Oh, 13-year-old parties?
Yeah.
But
I never had to use my my radio card on anything like that. Crazy ex-girlfriends, I thought about it. But, yeah, I can fight my own fights.
Like, really, you thought of having crazy ex-girlfriends pulled over?
No, it's just like, when the law enforcement isn't helping you out, then you got to call your buddies in law enforcement and say, hey, can you come over, help me out? And I thought about doing that a couple times because I had some crazy ex-girlfriends, but, not lately, not since I've been old. Right.
Well, that's good. The 13-year-old party situation, though, having DJ'd 13-year-old parties, I remember I had to cut the music once because the 13-year-olds wouldn't stop twerking. I don't think at the time it was even called twerking. It was just sort of like grinding. And I can't remember even the song, but it was some reggae song. And the teacher was like, no, you can't play. Oh, and all of a sudden you had 13-year-olds acting like they were 35-year-olds cutting loose on a vacation in Jamaica. And it was a sight to behold. They're like, you got to turn the You got to turn the music off. We can't. No reggae. Nothing that makes underage girls stick their butt out. Like, can we get with the Spice Girls or something like that? And it's quite frightening when the 13-year-old hormones get moving. It's weird. It's really, really weird, the behavior. Watching people that are